Hello, and welcome to Discovering True Health, your weekly deep dive into health and wellness. Thank you so much for joining us today. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button to stay up to date on all our upcoming shows. You can also check out additional information on our website, Instagram, and Facebook. All those links are below. Now, I've witnessed over the last few years that fear is a great motivator. So I'm going to take a page out of mainstream media's playbook and fill you in on some facts that will hopefully motivate you to take action. Now, as I've mentioned before on a previous show, the US adult obesity rate is at 42.4%, and it's the first time the national rate has passed the 40% mark. And since 2008, it's increased by 26%, and they're calling it an obesity crisis. But what you also need to know is that 70% of Americans, which is 7 out of 10 people who are in the hospital, are there because of their dietary habits and lifestyle. And also, an extensive new study on diet trends around the globe ties poor eating habits to 11 million deaths around the world in 2017. Also, diabetes is the sixth leading cause of death. 80%, which is 8 out of 10, men and women over the age of 50 are pre-diabetic or diabetic, and being overweight is the number one factor increasing your risk for developing type 2 diabetes. Now, if you think about the pandemic as well, if you're going into a pandemic with a strong immune system, healthy gut microbiome, and doing all of the things to support health and wellness, you're going to have a greater chance of fighting off any pathogen or virus. So today on Discovering True Health, we're going to learn successful, healthy ways to reduce our weight without going on a diet or calorie counting. We're also going to learn how to properly read labels on packaged foods, the harmful ingredients to look out for, and how to not be duped by these health gimmick marketing ads and labels that are completely manipulative, dishonest, and false. Now, I will say when it comes to packaged foods, I think it's really important to call out the food industry and the FDA for approving these foods. But we also need to take accountability and use our dollars to stop this from happening. If we demand healthy, nutrient-rich foods that still taste amazing, they'd figure out how to make them. So we need to be proactive on educating ourselves and what we're putting into our bodies and choosing foods that will help us thrive instead of choosing foods that are ruining us, our health, and making us sick. So here to help me do this today is David Medansky. He's international best-selling author and also known as the anti-diet advocate. He's written several books on healthy eating and weight loss, and his newest book is called Break the Chains of Dieting, which covers 9 fundamental principles for healthy weight loss. So thank you, David, for joining me today.
Thanks for having me as a guest, Christy.
Now, you yourself overcame some pretty serious health issues which stem from diet and obesity, which is what led you to helping others with your books. So I'd love to start with hearing a bit about your journey and how you reclaimed your health.
Thank you. I wasn't always fat. Like most people, I was fit and trim when I was younger. However, life gets in the way, and with family obligations and work responsibilities, before I knew it, the weight crept up on me. And then in July of 2016, my doctor told me, based on my lab results and being significantly overweight, obese, I had a 95% chance for a fatal heart attack. So he gave me 2 options. He says, lose weight or find a new doctor. And he went one step further and said, you probably should find a new doctor because I've been asking for 8 years to lose the weight and you haven't done it. So with that sort of hanging over my head, the light bulb went off and I decided to lose the weight. And during the next 4 months, I shed 50 pounds, 25% of my total body weight, and I've kept it off over the last 6 years. Wow. So now I want to help others learn how to lose weight without going on a diet, because diets are temporary, they're extreme, they're hard to stick with, and a lot of times they're potentially dangerous to our health. So I've identified 9 principles, and I'm happy to share most of those today with the audience and help other people reduce weight in a healthy and, more importantly, sustainable manner so they can keep it off. Because all diets will work, at some time. The problem is once you stop the diet, you revert to your old eating habits. And within a year, most people regain all the weight, some even more. The best example would be The Biggest Loser. 66% of their contestants regained all their weight. And a lot of them gained a lot of it back. Only a handful kept the weight off.
Interesting. Yeah, I agree. It's all about sustainability, and it's not about a diet. It's about eating in a sustainable way where you can lose the weight and keep it off. That's incredible. 50 pounds in 4 months.
Yeah, I tell people I had a little help. I went on what they call HCG, and that's a female hormone from pregnant women, and it tricks the body into burning fat instead of muscle. You're on 550 calories a day. And if you were to do 550 calories a day without the HCG, you'd burn muscle, which is unhealthy. And I know that because a friend of mine was going to prove to me that he could lose weight without doing that. And during the same time period, he shed 40 pounds. However, he was starving himself. And we were driving one day and he looked at me and he goes, "Does your skin on your arms, hang?" And I said, "No." And he goes, "Mine does." And I said, "Oh." I said, "Well, you're not eating enough to sustain, body. You're putting your body in starvation mode.
Yep.
So it's fighting to keep the weight and you're not helping it. You're nutritionally deficient." And he says, "You don't know what you're talking about." Okay. So he says, "I'm going to get a trainer and going to the club. I'm going to, work out." Great. And we'll talk about that in a minute about exercise being a myth for losing weight. So a couple of weeks later, he goes, "Can you lift more than 50 pounds or 15 pounds?" I said, "Yeah, I lift 50 pounds. I said, "Why?" He goes, "I'm only able to lift 15 pounds. I said, "What does your trainer says?" He says, "I'm not eating enough. I'm burning muscle." I said, "Well, there you go." So, and that's the thing is people think you have to exercise to lose weight. And that's a myth. Exercise is important for overall health and fitness, not to lose weight. And what happens is January 1st rolls around, people say, "I'm going to go to the gym, work out." And after 2 or 3 weeks, they're doing everything, eating better. The scale's not moving. What's happening is they're replacing their fat with muscle, and muscle and fat weigh the same. 5 pounds is 5 pounds. However, muscle is denser, so it takes up less room. So what's happening is the scale's not moving, but their clothes are getting looser, or they're having more energy or more mental clarity. Because they're looking at that scale, they're feeling nothing's working, so they quit or give up, say it's not working. I had a client that went through that. After 3 weeks, he was telling me that the scale is the same. And I finally asked him, his name is Dave also. I said, "Dave, are you exercising more?" He goes, "I'm walking 5 miles and I'm riding my bike." And I said, "Well, how do your clothes feel?" He goes, "Well, actually they're loose." And people are asking me if I'm losing weight. I'm not. I said, "Don't go by the scale, go by your clothes."
Absolutely. I never use a scale. I always say, look at yourself in the mirror.
Well, again, not so much the mirror. That's a great, way to look at things. But your clothes, if they're tight, you're gaining weight. If they're loose, you're losing weight. And so what happens is when I was gaining the weight, I just kept getting larger and larger clothes, and then got to the point where, okay, enough is enough. And so that's why I tell people, and then everybody's like, "Well, what's an ideal weight?" There is no ideal weight. Everybody's different. However, Dr. Oz gives a general rule of thumb, which is your waistline should be 1/2 of your height. So if you're 5 feet 8 inches like I am, that's, should be a waistline of 34 or less.
That's a good thing to know. Now, what are some important things you learned along the way through your healing process about the diet industry? And what was the hardest part of losing weight?
Well, the hardest part was getting started, because we all put off till tomorrow what we can do today. We procrastinate. I'll start on Monday. I'll start after my vacation, after the holidays, after the company picnic. There are many, many reasons we all delay, and procrastinate. So I had to start. So I did, and made a commitment. It wasn't a wish or a want to lose weight, or I wish I could lose weight. It was, I'm going to lose the weight, and this is what I'm going to do to do it. And I started going back and reading the books from the 1970s I had by Paul and Patricia Bragg, Richard Simmons, Jack LaLanne, and other people on healthy eating. And then I started reading the books that are current today. And I noticed that the books back in the 70s were more basic information. This is what you need to do. Whereas today's authors, a lot of them are selling their services or products, and they make it seem like if you don't buy their product or service, you're not going to succeed. And that's BS. So it's all about profit. Plus the food industry, like you mentioned, has changed quite a bit. In the 1990s, the average grocery store had 5,000 products. Today, it's over 50,000. Now, I don't know about you, Christy. I haven't heard that many new foods of, nuts, fruits, vegetables, beans, or berries being
Growing more
discovered.
species.
It's more, the different flavored Doritos and Cheetos and Dr. Peppers and sodas. And we're putting a lot of garbage into our bodies. And people don't realize it's actually toxic and poison. And what happens is, I call it edible products instead of food, because it won't kill you right away.
Yeah.
However, after 20, 30, 40 years, that's why if you're over age 50, there's a high probability you're type 2 diabetic. And overweight today causes more deaths than smoking.
Wow.
And a lot of that's preventable if people understood what they were putting in their bodies.
Right. And I feel like people don't realize it until they actually lose their health. It doesn't hit them. They're consuming and they're like, oh, I'm going to have, and it's okay to have balance as long as you're getting enough micros and macros. And then you have some, a Coca-Cola or something, you really like those foods, as long as you have like the 80-20 thing kind of rule going on. But yeah. And people don't, oh, I'm fine. They get in their 30s, they get in their 40s. And all of a sudden, you don't understand really until you lose your health.
Exactly. We take it for granted.
Mm-hmm.
The biggest thing I tell people is to drink more water, pure water, not the flavored water. Our bodies are 60 to 70% water, not soda, not diet soda, not fruit juices or fruit flavored beverages, water. So more people drink diet soda and soda than water. The other thing is 75% of the US adult population is chronically dehydrated. So what that means is they're not drinking enough water, which causes a lot of other illnesses and disease and ailments. And as you mentioned, 70% of the US population is overweight, or of which 40% are obese. There's a direct correlation between not drinking enough water and being overweight. And a lot of times when people think they're hungry, they're actually thirsty. So if you drink water instead of eating, you're replenishing, what you need for your body. The other thing, think of it this way. A lot of people can go 30, 40 days without food. Most people are unable to go 3 or 4 days without water.
Exactly. It shows you right there how important it is. And because, like you said, we're such a high percentage water, we need to constantly be replacing that and flushing out the old and bringing in the new, cleansing it out. Now, I mentioned at the top of the show, the obesity rate has exponentially increased in the US, and it's been called an obesity crisis. Why do you think we're at this point in our society? How did we get here? What are some of the reasons behind this obesity crisis in the US, in your opinion?
In my opinion, it's the food industry. They're scientifically engineering our food to make them addicting. They optimize your cravings for fat, salt, sugar, and texture. I'm addicted to Pringles potato chips. That was my downfall. And so I don't touch it. I treat myself like an alcoholic would. I'm not allowed to have one drink. I'm not an alcoholic. I do have a glass of wine every once in a while. It's a correlation or analysis that if I have one Pringles, I won't stop. I'll continue. And that's what most people, you go through a whole canister and you realize, where is it? I'm craving more. Yep. M&Ms, Hershey bars, Snickers, Oreo cookies are more addicting than cocaine. So cocaine's illegal, but Oreo cookies are allowed. Also, you're mentioning, what they put into the food. A lot of the products that are allowed here in the US, they're not allowed in the EU or Canada or China. Well, if those countries are banning those chemicals and artificial flavors and additives, why is our government allowing it? It's because of the food lobby and also because of big pharma. Because the more people who are ill, the more drugs they can prescribe for people, and it's a cycle. If you eat for your health, your weight loss journey will take care of itself.
Absolutely. And that's so true. I was talking to somebody who actually worked in the food industry for over 30 years. And then she suddenly was like, I'm a drug dealer. I'm producing drugs. And she said that the US food industry is the worst in the world
Yeah,
as
food
far
is
as
a drug.
making
Yeah,
toxic foods.
yeah, yeah.
And
Food
have
is
you
a
heard
drug.
the next thing that they're talking about is 3D printed foods?
Yeah, it's unfortunate. What I tell people, it's not so much the food, it's what they're doing to the food.
Yeah.
And Michael Pollan had some great ways of looking at it. He says, if it's made by a plant, eat it. If it's made in the plant, don't. The way I look at it is, if it's created by a person in a white lab coat in a plant, don't eat it. It's artificial, which means there's chemicals. It's not made by nature. You got to be careful with natural flavorings too, because a lot of them can be chemicals and artificial ingredients to a certain amount that they don't have to show as being artificial. They can call it natural ingredients. A good example, look at a can of tuna. On the front, it'll say packed in water. You think, oh, that must be healthy then. Well, you turn it over and look at the ingredients, and it'll say tuna, water, vegetable broth, and maybe sea salt. Well, what's in that vegetable broth? They can have up to 168 different compounds without disclosing to you what's in it. So you don't know what you're putting in your body. The term bliss point is a term described by Howard Moskowitz. He coined it, and it's his term for how he describes how they're scientifically engineering the food to make it addicting. And he worked in the food industry for over 30 years with people like Campbell's Soup, Nestle's, Dr. Pepper, different flavors, Prego spaghetti sauces, all the different flavors, and many more. And he's proud of it. He doesn't care because he was paid well. And that's how the food industry is. They don't care about your health. They only care about your bottom line, their bottom line. So how much money can they make? It's all about profit. And now with I call it fake meat and chicken and fish, the imitation, people think, well, it's plant-based, so it must be healthy. No, it's loaded with a lot of chemicals. And if you look at the ingredients, you're not able to pronounce it, don't eat it. Again, those chemicals are not made by nature. They're made by man. They're not good for you. And you may not realize it real quick and won't hit you, but builds up, like the compound effect that Darren Hardy talks about.
Yeah. And what I heard is, because I was like, how does the people that work in the food industry can't be all evil, and the people at the FDA can't be all evil? How do they justify this? Like, knowing that there's toxic chemicals that destroy our health and can, if we eat it regularly, can really put us in the hospital. And, the answer I got was, well, they're basing their approvals on, well, if you only eat like one serving of it, it's fine. But that's not what's happening. And they know that. But yeah, I mean, I guess and I just recently learned about something called chemical weight gain, where our bodies store these chemicals in food because it can't process them, and not to mention all the other damage it does in your body. Now, you were an attorney for many years, and you're very good at deciphering all this fine print and understanding what's actually going on. So let's get into how to properly read labels on packaged foods. I was lucky enough at a young age to learn this from one of my nutrition teachers in college. But let's talk about some of the harmful ingredients to look out for and how not to be duped by these health gimmick marketing ads and labels that are completely manipulative, dishonest, and false. I feel like it's not something a majority of the people are really aware of. Especially, there's a lot of things like you just mentioned I wasn't even aware of. I was like, oh, tuna. And I didn't know they could add like all these different things to, that one ingredients. That is mind blowing. So when we look at a packaged food product, where on the label should we be looking, and what should we be looking for?
Well, most people, when they look at the nutrition fact panel on a product, the first thing they look at is calories. And then they look at serving size. If they do that at all, it's at the top normally. So then they'll look at the sodium content, and they may look at the sugar content, the fat content. They're looking at everything wrong. The first thing you should look at is the ingredients, which is the very small fine print at the bottom of the fact panel, because the food industry doesn't really want you to know what's in the product that you're eating. So that's the first place you should look at, is the ingredients. And if it has anything like high fructose corn syrup, which is another form of sugar, anything that ends in OSE, avoid. Sucrose, dextrose, fructose. I know people think that stevia is a natural sweetener. It is to an extent. And the reason I say that is if you go to the grocery store and you look at the packaging for the stevia they sell there, most of it is a blend or has dextrose, sucrose, fructose in it. It's not pure stevia. So people are buying these packets thinking, oh, I got stevia, I'm doing healthy. No, you can only get the pure stevia at, like a Whole Foods, a Sprout, a health food store, and make sure you read what the ingredients are. And it says pure stevia. If it says anything else, it's a combination, it's a blend. And so it has bad stuff in there for you. And so, people have to read the ingredients. That's the most important thing. And again, if you're not able to pronounce it, you probably shouldn't be eating it. Just keep it basic and simple. When people look at the 9 principles I've identified, they're like, well, I know that. I understand, we all know what to do. We just don't do it. So if you know what to do, why aren't you doing it? And that's what I like to get into with people. Find out what the underlying issues are. There's a lot of different reasons for people overeating. I used to think it was stress. Now I changed that because I heard a medical doctor talking about convenience, and it made more sense. It's more convenient to go through a drive-through fast foods like McDonald's or Burger King, Wendy's. It's more convenient to pick up a bucket of fried chicken at KFC or Church's or Popeyes. It's more convenient to order a pizza or, bring in, Panda Express or Chinese food, as opposed to going to the grocery store, buying the ingredients and taking the time to cook it. And so people are in a hurry today and they don't want to take the time. So they get the frozen meals that are microwavable, thinking, well, it should be healthy. Again, they look at the calories, the sodium, and other factors without reading the ingredients. And so when you realize what you're putting into your body, again, it's not showing up right away. It takes, years for it to compound. And that's what happens. If you gain 5 pounds a year, 5 pounds doesn't sound like a lot, but after 5 years, that's 25 extra pounds. 10 years, it's an extra 50 pounds. And then the other thing is people believe the national brands for losing weight, lose 16 to 20 or 30 pounds your first month guarantee. Yeah, you'll lose it. You just can't keep it off. It may not be healthy for you. And so the diet industry is also a lot of dishonest people in there. They're not teaching you how to change your lifestyle and eat healthier. They want to sell you more product and more services. $71 billion a year spent on weight loss products in the industry. $71 billion a year. At any one time, there's more than 108 million Americans on a diet. 45 million Americans start a new diet each year. Well, my question is, if these diet and weight loss programs worked, why are people still getting fat? And why is an average person going through 126 different diets during their lifetime? The reason is it doesn't work. And again, if their products and services worked, they'd be out of business because people would be thin and eating healthier.
No repeat customers. The same with the healthcare business.
Yeah, I call it disease care. But if you look at 60% of nurses are overweight.
Wow.
Many doctors are overweight, and yet they're the ones giving so-called health advice. Right. It may be medical advice. I don't call it health advice. Now, my doctor, I was fortunate. He made sure that, I was aware of what I was, the risk I was facing. And many doctors just won't do that. They won't talk to their patients that way. I met one person, his name was Randy at Costa Rica when we were down there. And he's a doctor and he's internal medicine. And we were talking, and he was saying that he had to lose 100 pounds to have a hip replacement because he was too fat and overweight. And he still needed to lose another 80 or 90 pounds to be healthy. He was bragging that his average patient was 300 to 400 pounds. And he was saying, well, when you get to my age, it's not all about the money either. And I said, I understand. He goes, well, how could you understand? I said, what do you mean? I said, we're about the same age. He goes, no, we're not. He says, you're much younger than I am. I said, no. And I said, well, how old are you? And he says, I'm 58. I said, oh. He goes, how old are you? I said, at that time I was 63. And he goes, you're 63? I said, yeah. He turned and walked away. It was the last time I saw him. So,
you're older than 63 right now.
I just turned 67 yesterday.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I'm planning to hike. Well, thank you. I'm planning to hike. Well, be the example.
Yeah, the exact, yeah, you lead by example.
Yeah,
Exactly.
do as I do, not as I say.
Right. You were the first client. You were your first client. And that's the
Yeah,
thing. That's the thing. It's kind of like, the food industry and, you're talking about fast food and people choosing it because it's convenient. Fine. But even they could make convenient, easy food that's not filled with chemicals and all these harmful things. They could still do that, and it's like they're choosing to do that when it's not necessary to stick, like you said, create this, addiction and then also health issues because that feeds big pharma. It's kind of like this cyclical, one thing feeds the other and it goes around and around.
well, exactly. And again, people don't realize those French fries they are cooked in hydrogenated oil, which is one of the worst things you put in your body.
Yep.
When it says fat free, you should avoid it because it has olein in it. Olein was first discovered as olestra, and it was a drug to reduce cholesterol. And so it started as a drug, and they found out, oh, we can make it fat free in the food industry. And so the FDA approved it. However, they had put a warning label with Olestra saying how bad it was for you. And then Procter and Gamble, who developed it, lobbied again. And so they got approval that they didn't have to use the warning label, but the damage was done about the negativity. So they changed the name of Olestra to Olean. And just because it's fat free doesn't mean it's healthy for you because
Yeah.
they don't tell you about the sugar. And when you add that sugar to your body, then your body converts that to fat.
Right.
So it's a vicious cycle. And again, olein is a drug. It's not made by nature. Um, so you got
Yeah.
to be careful with that
Well,
stuff.
let's
Same.
let's get into some of these gimmicks and ingredients we sell in packages that's kind of, like you said, made to sound good, but in fact it's not, and kind of get the actual translation. So let's cover kind of the five big ones, which we've all seen on packaging, which are no sugar, artificial flavoring, natural flavoring, low fat. And I think I've seen this one on Frosted Flakes, an essential source of vitamins and minerals. So can you translate what these very sneaky words actually mean?
Sure. When it says no sugar, they're using aspartame or another artificial ingredient. And aspartame is the sweetener used in diet sodas and diet foods. And people are thinking, well, if it's 0 calories, it won't cause weight gain. And I argue with them and say, no, it does. And they say, well, how does a diet soda with 0 calories cause me to gain weight? Because it's not all about the calories in and calories out. And different calories have different nutritional value. You can eat a pint of blueberries, which is about 100 calories, as a Hershey bar, which is 125 calories and no nutritional value. Or an apple, a medium-sized apple is between 90 and 100 calories. However, it takes your body 25 calories to digest and process it. And it has a lot of nutritional value. A Hershey bar or Snickers has about 125 calories, no nutritional value. And what happens with the aspartame is it does two things. One, it increases your craving for sweetness. Now you're craving other sweet things. So you want to indulge in
It's addiction.
addiction, the cakes, the pastries, the candies. And the other thing is it prevents your body from absorbing vitamins, minerals, and nutrients. So your body goes into what's called starvation mode because your body's based to survive. Because when we were our ancestors, we had to look for food. It wasn't so prevalent like it is today. So your body's storing the fat in your body thinking that you're starving it because you're not giving it the right nutritional value. So that's the two factors on the soda and diet soda. Plus, again, our bodies are made of 60 to 70% water, not soda or diet soda. And most people won't give their pets soda or diet soda to drink, yet that's what they put in their own bodies. Yeah, it does taste good. It's designed that way. It's designed to be addicting. So
And like you
that's one
said,
thing.
you could be, your 20s and 30s and 40s, and you could be having, a soda a day and you might not see anything, but that all adds up and compounds over time. And once you hit a certain age, there's going to be a point
Exactly.
when there's so much of it in your body, it just kind of causes a lot of issues.
And then with the vitamins, I always get a kick out of they're adding more vitamin D or vitamin C or whatever, calcium to the product after they stripped away all the nutritional value. A good example of that is, white bread. They strip away, all the nutritional value and then add a little bit back in. And that's to help the government from, saying that it's unhealthy.
So is that the little essential source of vitamins and minerals clip?
Yeah. And again, they're synthetic vitamins and minerals. They're not made by
So
nature.
they strip them out and then they add some
Synthetics back in. There was a commercial with Mother Nature. I believe her name was Dina Dietrich, was the actress who played her in the 1970s with Siobhan Margarine. It says, "It's not nice to fool Mother Nature." Perhaps we should heed those warnings because, with the imitation meats now, the Beyond Burger, the Impossible Burger, and other things, again, it's chemicals not made by nature. And just because it's plant-based doesn't mean it's healthy. Oreo cookies are plant-based and it's vegan. It's not healthy for you.
Right.
Potato chips are vegan. It's not healthy for you.
And when they say natural flavoring, what's the...
Natural flavoring can be anything. They have certain limits that they can put, different artificial ingredients, different chemicals in there and still call it natural flavoring.
Wow.
So again, they don't disclose everything and the government allows to do certain things. So you have to be careful with the natural flavoring. Artificial just means it's chemicals. It's man-made, made in a lab. It's not good for you. A lot of different things people need to be aware of that we're not. We believe the commercials. We believe Cheerios will lower your cholesterol. It's BS. Aquafina is made by Pepsi Cola and Dasante is made by Coca-Cola. It's bottled water. Some of it's filtered, some isn't. In the UK, they found that Dasante was just taken right out of the tap. So a lot of it is dangerous. And again, when you mention with tap water, you should never drink tap water. It has a lot of chemicals in it. In the movie Aaron Brockovich, they had that chemical that was PG&E disposed of. They found that same chemical in all municipalities in all 50 states. But it's at a low level. However, my neighbor drinks maybe 1 or 2 glasses of water, and I'm drinking 10 to 15 glasses of water a day. Well, for him, it's safe to drink 1 or 2 because it's a small amount. For me, it's toxic.
Right.
Dr. David Freeman wrote Food Sanity, talks about being in the hospital for several months because they couldn't figure out what was wrong with him. And they found out it was the tap water. And so after that, he, got a reverse osmosis and started drinking the pure water. And that's what people argue. Well, what kind of water should I drink? So there's distilled water, and then there's spring water. And depending on which expert you listen to, you get a different opinion. Paul and Patricia Bragg will advocate you should drink distilled water, and they give their reasons for it. Jack LaLanne, who was a student of Paul and Patricia, or Paul Bragg, he advocates drinking spring water. So now the student's going against what the teacher's saying. And then you get another expert will say, well, both of them are wrong. You should only drink reverse osmosis water. And so there's different types of reverse osmosis. So I recommend a 6-stage filtering system. I drank distilled water for about 30 years. I don't trust the store-bought water anymore. And so I have a reverse osmosis system, and that's what I drink, is the reverse osmosis water. And what I tell people is, whatever you prefer. If you prefer distilled water, drink that. If you prefer spring water, drink that. If you prefer reverse osmosis, get a system. Inexpensive, maybe $200, $225. You can install it yourself. I did. I don't have a clue what I'm doing with mechanics. So, little simple things like that. Just avoid the fruit juices. And everybody thinks orange juice is healthy. It's loaded with sugar and no fiber. Even if they add back the vitamin, D and vitamin A. You have to understand, it takes 4 to 8 medium oranges to make a glass of orange juice. So my question is, would you eat 4 to 8 oranges at one sitting? Well, most people say, well, no. Well, that's how much sugar you're putting in your body without the fiber. And if you do put the fiber back in, it's not the same. And so
right.
That's
and
why
Mother Nature makes it that way because we need it all of it.
Exactly. It's balanced. So have an orange instead of a glass of orange juice.
Absolutely. And with the water, I agree. I've tried a lot of my strategy now is I got a water distiller. So I distill water, but then I add back in, I use Himalayan sea salt to add back in the minerals. So my thought behind it is I have the, cleanest, most pure water that's mineralized. And I do my little ppm tester. But I will say, if you ever get a water distiller, you will never drink tap water or even want
Oh
to touch
yeah,
tap water again. What's left in the bottom of a distiller after distilling a gallon of water,
it's
it's
disgusting.
horrific.
Yeah.
It is terrifying. Like it's hard to even smell or look at.
Yeah, I had a water distiller for several years. It was a 5 gallon one, and I just got tired of cleaning it all the time.
Yeah, that's the only thing. But I mean, that's my strategy for now. So basically, artificial flavor is that's like it's all chemicals. Natural flavoring, they might have like one natural thing in there plus chemicals. So it's not any better, really.
Correct.
Got it.
Yeah, you want just get the regular product. I mean, I don't know what kind of foods, but if it's in a package, most likely it's processed or highly processed. And then manufactured food means it's not even made in nature. It's just made by a lab. So.
And I think people also need to look at history. And I pulled these two really great examples of very nefarious ads just so people can see this is going back in time. I don't know, maybe 40 years. This is for Winston cigarettes. And the ad shows a pregnant woman smoking a cigarette and says, "Taste isn't the only reason I smoke. People are always telling me that smoking causes low birth weight. Talk about a win-win-win, an easy labor, a slim baby, and full of flavor, Winston's."
Wow. Yeah.
I mean, this is, we need to realize. And then here's Coca-Cola ad from back in the day. It says, "The intellectual beverage and temperance drink. It's a valuable brain tonic and a cure for all nervous afflictions, including headaches, hysteria, and melancholy."
Well, Coca-Cola used to be used as medicinal purposes, and it used to have cocaine in it. That was one of the ingredients. And so they took it out, obviously. But yeah, most people don't realize Coca-Cola was initially used as medicinal purposes, not for a beverage for, quenching your thirst. Gatorade is one of the worst things you can put in your body. Any of those drinks, energy drinks, avoid. The other, drinks similar to Gatorade, again, it's all chemicals in there. In fact, the Gatorade today is made differently with different ingredients than what it was originally back in the 70s. So they've changed the formulation because, again,
it's not addictive enough.
Not addicted and cheaper to use the chemicals instead of the natural sources. Water is the best thing you can do. Hydrate, squeeze some fresh lemon in it. People say, well, water is boring. I don't like the taste of it. Okay. Throw some, fresh fruit into it, like an orange or watermelon or berries. When you go to resorts, at least when I do, at the lobby, they always have this big jug of water with the fresh melons in there and berries. And well, if you're going on vacation and they're going to treat you like that, why not have that every day? And then you get the nutritional value from the water absorbing the vitamins and nutrients from what you put in there. So you 2 for 1.
Absolutely.
And I was one more thing about the water with the alkali. People think, I need to get alkali water. That's BS. If you put a little bit of lemon juice into the water, it does the exact same thing. It balances the pH in your stomach.
Oh, yeah, I do that every morning. I do my water with the Himalayan sea salt and some lemon before, as soon as I wake up.
Yeah.
That's so good for you. So we talked about diet sodas, there's artificial sweeteners, and then the plant-based meat alternatives. Obviously, you said those are those are full of chemicals. Correct.
Yeah. What gives the meat its red color for the plant-based meats is something called heme, HEME, and that's a chemical.
Wow.
And so people don't realize that. I just avoid arguing with people anymore about the health benefits of a plant-based burger versus. Now, you can get a plant-based burger if it's not, artificial meat. There are bean burgers, there's, veggie burgers. That's a different topic altogether.
You can make your own veggie burger.
Your own. Yeah. A lot of veggie burgers are healthy for you. I mean, that's what you should be eating, not the imitation meat burgers.
Yeah. And I've heard that, one big red flag is if you see lots of fancy, snazzy advertising and billboards and commercials about a food and packaging, that means that they're making it real cheap with a lot of chemicals with a big bottom line.
Yeah. Here's another thing to look for: pasta and box of spaghetti. A lot of them on the front will say 0 sodium, so much protein, so many calories, it'll give everything. The one thing it doesn't tell you, the number of carbohydrates in it. Most of it is 40 to 50 carbohydrates per serving, which is way too much.
Wow.
Also, Starbucks drinks, the foo-foo drinks, I call them, some of them, the Ventes, not even, or the Grandes, not even the Vente ones, the bigger ones, they'll have 50 to 60 to 70 grams of sugar. And you only need about 25 to 30 grams of sugar if you're a female, and about 35 grams of sugar if you're a male per day. So people are getting more sugar in one drink, and some are having 2 or 3 drinks a day, not realizing what they're putting in their body. The other thing is our food portions. We've been supersized without realizing it. In the 1900s, the average size dinner plate was 9 inches in diameter. Today, it's 12 inches. In restaurants, it's 13 to 15 inches. So what I tell people when you go to a restaurant, get a to-go box right away, cut your portion size in half, so you get 2 meals for the price of one, so you're saving money and eating a lot less. The other thing is eat a lot slower. We're all eating fast. We eat it at our desk in front of our computers, watching TV while we're driving. You go through the fast food drive-through lane. And so we're not focusing on the food. I call it mindless eating. And it's mindless eating when you've gone through the bag of chips or pretzels or the box of cookies. And it's like, where did it go? Or you look for your sandwich on your desk and it's gone because you ate it without realizing it.
Yeah.
So David wrote a book called The Slowdown Diet. And he recommends if you take 5 or 10 minutes for breakfast, give yourself 10 or 15, and a minimum, give yourself 30 minutes for lunch and 30 minutes for dinner, which then gets into another topic of, well, what about the people who eat 1 meal a day? What about intermittent fasting? And so there are many different ways people can do an intermittent fast. And what I tell people is most people, 12 to 14 hours is considered an intermittent fast. So if you stop eating 3 hours before you go to bed, so if your normal bedtime is 10 o'clock and you stop eating at 7 o'clock and your first meal is at 9, 10 o'clock in the morning, that's 12 to 14 hours. You've got an intermittent fast, and you don't have to eat right away when you get up. Breakfast means to break the fast, not to eat the first meal when you get up. And I'm like you, Chris. I have a 16-ounce glass of water first thing I do when I get up in the morning. And then my next glass, I throw in the lemon juice and the apple cider vinegar and have a second glass. So I have 64 ounces before lunch usually of water.
So you hydrate first.
Yes. Especially out here in Arizona, we need that.
Yes. Very, very dry. It's getting drier, I've noticed. I'm like, whoa, I feel parched a lot more often. And I heard when I don't know if it was a blog I read of yours or listened to one of the podcasts you were on, but you were talking about, I thought this is interesting. And, there's a lot of people on this vegan thing. And you were talking about how back when, thousands of years ago, before we evolved and before we could speak, we were basically just gatherers. But when we were able to make fire, that's when we started eating meat, which is what evolved our brains and evolved our speech. So it made me think like, okay, if meat was kind of the catalyst for our evolution and our brain evolution and our evolution as beings, all these vegans now, are we going back with cutting meat out?
Plant-based, organic is the best. It's the healthiest.
Right.
The problem is back when our ancestors, they were hunters, they were eating wild, meat, the venison, the deer, whatever they can kill. So it was fresh. It wasn't, raised in a pasture with chemicals being added or grains. So the meat today is a lot different than the meat back then. And so there's a big difference. And Dan Buettner, writes about the blue zones, and there's 5 of them in the world. And that's for people who live to old ages of 90, 100, healthy and active. And when you look at their diet, they include, either fish or chicken or meat. It's just a little bit of it, not a lot. So meat is healthy. Now, again, Eskimos, they don't get fresh fruits and berries because of where they live. They, bodies are adjusted to, the blubber and whatever they can catch, the fish and everything. So depending on where you're living and how your body is adapting, depends on what you should, give yourself. The problem today is we're all eating these processed foods, that come in a box. People think Pop-Tarts for breakfast is healthy, or a bagel and a glass of orange juice. Eggs, people think, oh, I'm getting range-free or, cage-free eggs are healthy. No, if you look at the carton, it'll say special grain or grain-fed. That means it's corn and soy. So if you think you're gluten-free, you're not. So what you want for eggs is pasture eggs. And that means that the hens are outside, they forage for their own food. They get, the bugs, the worms, the grass. They're not cage-free, which means if you see pictures of cage-free, they're not. They're in a big housing area. They can go outside, but there's so many of them they can't go. So they're eating the grain and the corn and the soy. And so people don't realize, because what the chicken is eating is what is going into the egg is going into your body. So
I think that's the pressing part with today, because now that we're getting healthier and getting more health conscious, they're finding new ways to hide things. Like you said, you buy eggs and you think, okay, it's pasture, pasture raised, organic, whatever they say. And I'm like, okay, this is healthy. But something you just said, I had no idea about. And there's that kind of thing with meat too, I feel like.
Exactly. And some people argue, well, it's expensive for pasture eggs right now. I think they're anywhere from $6 to $8 a carton. And I'm like, it's less than 50 cents an egg, or 50 cents an egg. How much you spend on an egg sandwich at, fast food through McDonald's or Burger King or Carl's Jr. or Wendy. Oh, by the way, if you get a chance, use a blue plate to eat off of, because blue is an appetite suppressant. There's only two foods in nature that are blue, a blueberry and a grape from South America. Red and yellow are appetite stimulants. That's why McDonald's, Burger King, Wendy's, Denny's, and all the fast food places use red, yellow, or a combination in their marketing and advertising. Little things, it's subconscious. They spend millions and millions of dollars paying psychologists and marketing experts how to promote and manipulate you to buying their products. And people aren't aware of that. Those advertising dollars, they spend them for a reason. And again, if people think it costs a lot of money to eat healthy, it doesn't. And if you don't like something, don't eat it. But if you like it and it's healthy for you, great, eat it. I mean, I like plain Greek yogurt. And so I check and see what the ingredients are. And I get the whole milk, not the skim milk. And people think, well, yogurt is healthy because they see all of it and they say yogurt's good for you. Well, it's not. It's got all the fruit at the bottom, or you mix it up, or it's already pre-blended. It's all sugar, 14 grams or more sugar in one little serving. So a lot of times I'll just get the Greek yogurt. I'll get some fresh or frozen berries and I'll put it in there with it. My wife will look and she says, that looks decadent. I said, yeah, it tastes good too. And it's healthy for you, little things. And then some people don't want to eat dairy. Some do. Again, one expert will tell you need to eat dairy. Another will say it's bad for you. Well, which is it?
Yeah.
It's all what's best for your own body. You have to experiment a little bit and see what is good for you. When you get brown rice, make sure it's organic short grain brown rice, not long grain. There's a difference in nutritional value.
Why is that?
So the long grain doesn't have the same nutritional value as the short grain for some reason.
Interesting.
Yeah. So yeah, just little things like that.
That's fascinating. Yeah. We have to
and when you think about it, oatmeal, I get the rolled oats, organic rolled oats. Depending on when I go, if it's on sale or not, it could be 99 cents to $1.99 for, pound bag. And you can spice it up a little bit. I throw in some ground cinnamon, Ceylon cinnamon, because it's a metabolism booster. I also throw in some chopped walnuts, so it gives a little crunch to it. So you can, make it taste better. It doesn't have to be plain. You don't have to put honey in it. You don't have to put sugar in it. And if you get honey, use the raw honey, not the stuff they sell in the supermarket that is liquefied. It's been processed. They've depleted all the nutritional value from it.
Yeah.
Again, ketchup is one of the worst things you can do. It's about 60% sugar.
Yeah, condiments in general, I feel are all sugar and chemicals most likely. And yeah, you said the honey thing, that's you want the way my functional medicine doctor is explaining, you want the full kind of microbiome in the honey, because honey should be able to sit there for 50 years and never go bad. But when they take out and process, then it does have an expiration date, and you want the full.
You want the stuff that's cloudy and kind
Yeah.
of solid.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now you mentioned sugars. For those of us that still like our sweet flavors, what are some kind of good natural sweetener alternatives that are a healthier choice? I know you mentioned the stevia. Make sure we get that as like pure stevia.
I use coconut sugar. That's good. I use honey. I get the raw honey. My wife and I like to go to Rocky Point, and there's a restaurant called Coffee House. They make incredible pancakes. They're so good. I don't need to use syrup with it. And there's a restaurant called Hash for breakfast, and we'll go there and I'll get the protein pancakes, like the half order. I never use the syrup, and the server came by there and she says, "You need more syrup?" I said, "No, I don't use it." She says, "You don't?" I said, "No, it's how I can tell if it's a good pancake or not, if I need the syrup or not." So,
and I think your taste buds adapt too. When you stop eating all these processed sugars, there'll be an adjustment period with your taste buds. And then I've gone through it, and I'll try to go back and eat something super processed, and I'm like, whoa, that's way too sweet and it tastes horrible. I can't even eat it. And now like fruits and a little bit of honey tastes sweet to me.
Yeah, pineapple will taste sweeter to you. Oranges will taste sweeter. Apples will taste sweet. Pears, peaches. There's so many things people can have. I mean, if you don't like a certain fruit, see what fruit you do like. And I like to keep a positive mindset. Now, I'm not a food purist by any stretch of the imagination. I enjoy a piece of chocolate cake every once in a while, or pecan pie or pumpkin pie. However, instead of having a full slice, I'll have a sliver. Right. So I reduce my portion sizes. Balance. And I'm not saying you shouldn't enjoy yourself. And a couple of my clients, when they've gone back to soda after a couple months, they didn't like the taste of it. In fact, one of my clients was telling me, she goes, "I went through the drive-thru. I wanted a soda so bad. I got a Coke and it tasted bad. So I threw it out and I went through another drive-thru at a different competitor and got another soda, and that tasted just as bad. So I stopped at a 7-Eleven, got a can of soda, and that tasted bad. And I realized my taste buds had changed."
Yes.
Yes. What they're saying is
crazy how our mind still craves it.
Yeah, because it's addicting. It's like a drug. What they're saying is kids today who are, getting the fast foods for most of their meals, or, the cereals in a bowl and other things, fresh fruits and vegetables taste sour and bitter to them. And so when you get them off of that, then they're, like you said, your taste buds change. It tastes better all of a sudden, sweeter, and more delicious. And if you can't afford organic, just get the regular stuff. It's better than the processed stuff.
Right. Absolutely. Now you've sprinkled in a whole lot of tips throughout this chat, but what would be, you wrote this incredible book and have these 9 principles. What would be some tips from your experience for someone who wants to improve their eating habits and lose the extra weight they're carrying and keep it off?
Very simple. The first one is drink more water. At least 64 ounces, or 1/2 of your total body weight. Unless you work outside a lot of physical activity, or you're exercising and working out, then drink more water. Number 2 is to avoid highly processed and manufactured foods. Number 3 is to eat mostly organic plant-based foods, or if it's not organic, just plant-based. Now, I'm not saying you have to eliminate all meat or fish or chicken or eggs. I eat all that, just in moderation. The other thing is watch the chickens. If you can get free range, that's better than the stuff. Make sure. Sometimes if you look at the packaging, it'll say so much water's added to the chicken. So that's a giveaway not to buy that particular type, because it adds weight to it. So they sell it by weight. They make more money. The other thing is eat slower. Put your fork down between bites. Avoid what I call mindless eating. eat smaller portions, use a salad plate instead of a dinner size plate, and don't go back for seconds. Get adequate sleep. People don't realize how important sleep is. If you're sleep deprived, you'll consume an extra 500 calories the next day. To lose 1 pound, you need to reduce your caloric intake by 500 calories per day for an entire week. So if you're sleep deprived and you eat an extra 500 calories the next day, you're going the wrong direction. So that's important. Avoid eating, 3 hours before you go to bed, so you give your body time to digest the food. Keep a positive mindset instead of focusing on what you shouldn't have, or you're not sacrificing or depriving yourself. You're making a healthy choice, and you're looking forward to eating the apple or the pear, or whatever you enjoy, the berries, the special meal you like. And one of the things that I've added is to walk, maybe 45 minutes to an hour a day, build up to it. And the reason I say that is Rebel Wilson lost 77 pounds, and her doctor told her the only thing she had to do was walk an hour a day. And that's what she did for a year. And that's how she lost her weight. Of course, she modified some of her eating habits. You don't need to be like Adele, spending 2, 3, 4 hours a day in the gym. It's not realistic for most people. We have families, we have work responsibilities. So it's little things you can do.
Yeah. And they, like you said, they seem like little logical things, but yet they make such an impactful difference.
Give it time. What I tell people, it's consistently done over a long period of time, usually 66 days or longer. They did research in the UK and found that it takes on average 66 days to create a new habit, not 21 days, not 30 days. So people don't give themselves enough time. And the other thing is, you didn't put your weight on overnight. You're not going to take it off overnight. It's like, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. Well, how do you lose your weight? 1 ounce and 1 pound at a time. And think of it this way. Would you like to weigh 24 to 48 pounds lighter by this time next year? Most people would say, yes, of course. Okay, if you lose 2, 3, 4 pounds a month, not a week, a month. Most people say, oh, I could do that. Well, if you do it consistently for 12 months on average, that's 24 to 48 pounds lighter by this time next year. The important thing is to be consistent and keep doing it. Sorry about that.
The face. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I can say from my experience, because I'm a COVID survivor, and after COVID, I was I've been a long hauler dealing with all this lung damage, and my body gained a lot of weight because I was taking a lot of steroids for about a year, and I wouldn't move. I was trying to work out really hard, wouldn't move. And I started working with this functional medicine doctor, and we changed my diet. We did my food sensitivity testing. We added it. I wasn't eating enough micros and macros, like enough variety. And just by making some of the adjustments, like what you talked about, I mean, the weight just disappeared. It was incredible. And I've always known, because I studied this in school, that yes, it's, 85 or 90% diet and 10% workout. I knew this intellectually, but this was the first time I radically experienced it. And I was like, okay, this is crazy. It literally just melted off.
Yeah. In fact, you could lose weight without doing any physical activity. The physical activity is for overall health and fitness.
Right.
However, about 95% of what we put in our body affects our weight. And the reason I say 95% or 90%, some people do have hormonal issues, and there's some people that do have other medical issues that creates weight problems for them. So it's not 100% food. Sometimes there's medications that will cause weight gain. So there's other reasons. Usually I tell people that are a little bit older, go get your thyroid checked. And a lot of times there'll be some issues with the thyroid. Sometimes people just don't go in for medical checkups when they should. I'm not anti health professionals or medical professionals. It's just be careful, because a lot of them just want to prescribe medications instead of, you do the functional medicine, alternative medicine. And I think that's the better way to go, because now you're working with nature to look at the underlying causes, not just address the symptoms.
Absolutely.
And there's a difference.
So important to have, somebody that sees your body as a holistic being and everything works together, and how do we find the root cause, and how do we use nature and other, if we need to use medication, we'll use it, but we're going to try to do it as natural as possible.
Right.
Sorry. Go ahead.
The other thing is type 2 diabetes is reversible and preventable. So people can reverse it if they change their eating habits and give them enough time. And then you were talking about what will motivate somebody, what will scare somebody. For me, it was almost having a fatal heart attack. I was fortunate I avoided it. I have friends that weren't so lucky. What I talk about with motivation is, if you're not going to do it for yourself, do it for others. Do it for someone, your kids, your grandkids, someone you love. Do it for your, if you're a business owner, your employees. Think how something happens to you that's, detrimental to your health, how it's going to affect them. If you end up with a heart attack, or a stroke, how does that affect, your spouse or someone who loves you, or your kids? So think about that. As opposed to yourself. If you're not going to do it for yourself, do it for someone you care about.
I love that. That's powerful, because some people just need a powerful enough purpose and reason to get started. Now, you have a weight loss program that you created, and you're living proof that it works. You look amazing, and
Well, thank you.
Very healthy. Can you share with us the foundational principles of your program and how your program is different from a lot of others out there?
Well, the program's different in that I teach people how to adjust their eating habits so that they can enjoy the food they eat. They look forward to it and change their lifestyle. So we don't focus on what you shouldn't be eating. We tell you what to avoid, obviously, but we work with you on what do you enjoy, what do you eat, when do you eat, why do you eat. Most people don't realize food is fuel for our body. We ate for survival. It wasn't for entertainment, wasn't for enjoyment. Wasn't a whole lot of alcohol back then. Well, wine, and beer, but not the hard alcohol.
Yeah.
And so I work with people, find out, what we can do to make small adjustments. So it's not cold turkey. It's not just doing everything at one time. It's like, what one habit can we change? Can we get you to maybe stop drinking 2 or 3 cans of soda to maybe drinking 1 can? Can we substitute the water in the meantime? Can we go forward and say, okay, can you stop eating the snacks after dinner while you're watching TV? What can you do? Can you take 30 minutes at work to eat your food where you're not working or focusing on what you're eating? Little things like that. What can we do to get your water intake up? A lot of my clients would tell me that they would drink more water because they knew the first question I would ask them is, did you drink water this week and how much? And so they didn't want to have to tell me no. Exactly. And that's important to have an accountability partner. Because when you have to report to someone, you're going to be more honest with them. If you have a trainer, you're going to show up. If you go to the gym by yourself without a trainer, you'll give yourself reasons. I call it the little voice in your head, why you don't need to go that day. You'll make excuses. And so a lot of times we value other people's time more than our own. And so, like you said, an accountability partner. So in the book, I have Break Chains of Dieting. I talk about that. I tell people not only how to get an accountability partner, but also how to host the accountability phone call. And you don't need someone that's going on a weight loss journey with you. It can be anybody, as long as they can take 5 or 10 minutes to say what you did. You said you were going to do this. Did you do it? It's yes or no, no excuses. If not, what did you learn from it? And how are you going to correct it? And what are you going to do next week? And so it's as simple as that. And so you don't have to worry about making excuses. You either did it or you didn't. Find out what kind of foods you do like so that you can enjoy those, and explain how to read nutritional fact panels and what you're looking at. And I had one person I was working with, she lost 19 pounds in about a month, and she was struggling before that. And she was drinking a protein drink. And I said, well, what kind of protein are you getting? She says, well, it's whey protein. I said, whey protein? You got the wrong protein. She says, what do you mean? I said, well, if you go to the health food store, you'll see protein for muscle gain and weight gain, and protein for weight loss. And so whey protein is used by bodybuilders to gain muscle mass. It's milk-based, dairy-based, basically. So you want a plant-based protein for weight loss. And just, I didn't know that. So when she switched over, the weight started coming off. So again, it's the little things like that. I've been reading these books from the 70s. Like I said, I was always fit and trim. Life gets in the way, got away from my good habits, went back, and I'm rereading everything. I'm always learning. As I told you earlier, I'm a learn it all, not a know it all.
Mhm.
So if I can share my information with people, that's what I want to do. And as being a lawyer, I learned how to sift through, opinion from fact and from the fiction.
Absolutely. That's a powerful skill to have, especially these days. Real quick on the protein shakes. Now I'm curious. So if you're not trying to gain weight and you're trying to either lose weight or maintain, you don't want a whey protein, you want a vegetable-based protein shake.
Plant-based.
Plant-based.
Yeah. You want a plant-based protein, and be careful. Make sure, watch the sugar content in there. Add sugar to make it taste good. I use the Garden of Life organic protein.
Okay.
So that's a good brand. The other thing I get is 100% cacao from Costco. You can order online. It's different than cocoa.
It's a superfood.
Cacao is a superfood.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I get the 100%. It's organic, and I throw it in. So that's how I get my chocolate fix with the protein drink. And then Truvani, Truvani, is a plant-based protein. You can order online through Truvani. That's a great protein source. There's many others. Again, there's a lot I won't touch. I read the labels, read the ingredients, see what's in there, and see what the sugar content is. So you can you can find things out like that. One thing about Garden of Life, I'm a little bit cautious with them because it was owned by Jordan Rubin. He wrote The Maker's Diet. He sold that company to Nestle's. And so Nestle's is the owner of Garden of Life. I didn't know that.
Red flag right there.
Yeah, exactly. Because again, it's not the food, it's what they do to the food.
Yeah.
So I read the ingredients. They have the certifications, for the non-GMO, the organic, and other, certifications on, make sure it has that. And there's other protein products that are very good. Just, again, read the labels and see what the ingredients are.
Yes.
See what the sugar content is.
And very important, what David means by read the ingredients is not the little panel that has all the percentages. That's just nonsense. Just ignore that. Go down to the little tiny print that says ingredients and read those words and see if there's anything that sounds like you don't understand what it is. Then put it back on the shelf.
Well, that's what I like about the Truvani protein. It's only got 6 ingredients in there.
Beautiful. Yeah, that's what we need. So now, how can we find you and your books? And do you have any other great resources on weight loss we can all check out?
Well, antidietadvocate.com is my website, and I post blogs up there and a lot of great information. I put the interviews up there, so a lot of great interviews and podcasts with information up there. That's all free. They can find me on LinkedIn. They can find me on Facebook. The website, antidietadvocate.com.
Great. And then all your books are linked there.
All my books are on Amazon, so they can get it there. And my Gmail is real simple. It's my first and last name, David. Last name is like 3 words, Medansky, Medansky. So it's David Medansky at gmail.com. I kept it simple. So,
and you still do private coaching sessions?
Yes.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah, I'm limiting how many people I take. Right now I'm training to hike Mount Kilimanjaro in June.
Wow.
So I'm spending 3 to 4 hours, basically walking and hiking to train for that.
Exciting. That's incredible.
Yeah, I like to be active. And I met Anne Lorrimore. She set the world record for the oldest person at age 90. Or no, she was 89. I told her I was going to attempt to do it when I reached 90. So the first goal is to get to age 90, and the second goal is to be in good enough shape to be able to climb Kilimanjaro.
I love it. That's a great goal. Well, great. I'll post links to all your links and spots below where everybody can find you. Before we wrap up the show, do you have any final thoughts or words for those out there who are in a place where they need to lose the extra pounds and get their health back on track?
Yes, start now, not tomorrow. Because again, we all make excuses and justifications, and just start small. You don't have to do everything at one time. You don't have to go get a gym membership or a trainer. What people find is when they start losing the weight, they have more energy and more mental clarity, and then they want to be more physically active. And when you start reducing the weight, then you want to spend more time with the kids and being active with them, or the grandkids, depending on your age. And just make simple changes. Give up the soda and diet soda if you're not willing to give it up. Reduce it. Instead of having one can, half a can. I had one client, he loved martinis every night. He was drinking 2 of them. So we got it down to where he was drinking a half a martini. So I'm not saying you have to give up everything. Just start making small changes and give yourself time. Give yourself at least 6 months. It'll start compounding. You'll start seeing noticeable, results after 3, 4, 5 weeks. Most people don't give themselves enough time, and then they quit and give up because they're not seeing immediate results. We live in a society where we want instant gratification.
Mm-hmm.
So just be patient. That's, be consistent. That's the key.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for joining me today and sharing your incredible story and your wisdom that you learned along the way. We are now armed with some good information and strategies on how to read labels and sort through all these gimmicks so we can choose foods that will not destroy our health, but to help us thrive. So thank you, David.
Thank you, Christy. I appreciate being a guest.
Remember, knowledge is power. The more you understand about your body, the better you're able to stay healthy and prevent disease. And a reminder, I'm not your doctor, so don't take this as medical advice. If you have specific questions around your healthcare, reach out to your practitioner. And if you like this video, please like and share with others. This information could really help someone you may know. And also hit the subscribe button and that little bell to be sure you don't miss out on our future shows. And join us next Wednesday for the next episode of Discovering True Health.